Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular scheduled Town of Milton Board meeting. Today is May 25th of 2022. I'd like to get the meeting started with a pledge of allegiance by Councilman Andrews.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started with the meeting, I'd like to just take a moment of silence for the tragedy in Texas and everything that's going on in our country. So I'd like to just take a brief moment of silence before we start the meeting. Thank you. Roll call, Colonel.
Councilman Isaacson.
Present.
Councilman Polish.
Present.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Present.
Councilman Blaza.
Present.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Present. A motion to accept the minutes from the April 27, 2022 meeting.
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Councilman Polish.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Blaza.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. The first portion of the meeting will be public comment. The first public comment will be on the agenda items only within the agenda. Public comments now open within. How are we doing?
Oops. Okay.
Head on now.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
No.
Okay. It's on, green light.
That's right.
Oh, extra green. Testing.
Nope.
Oh.
The green light's on. Yep. It says no.
Now try it.
Oh, wait a minute.
Go.
Ellie, try it now.
Testing. Nope. It says low power. Just what you wanted, Brenda. Nope. I can yell. I was a teacher.
Here.
Just talk loud.
I know you hear me.
Or she would stand, give her your mic and she would stand at the end.
Try it now.
Testing. Oh boy. My name is Ellie Dillon, 116 Malta Avenue in Ballston Spa. I am respectfully asking the board and Supervisor Ostrander to do the right thing for our community and fly the pride flag for National Pride Month. Let's reverse the scar on our town that a few misguided thieves made when they chose to steal the flag not once but twice from Milton town property. Some think if we raise a pride flag, why not a Confederate flag or a swastika? This type of thinking comes from ignorance. These type of ideologies, though repugnant, are just ideas, not people. Our Constitution states that we are all created equal. LGBTQ citizens have been discriminated against, persecuted, criminalized, and murdered simply because of orientation. Sexual orientation is not an ideology, and it is up to our governments to recognize and protect all of our citizens. Our government mandated June as Pride Month, thus it falls under government speech. And what better way to recognize our armed forces' efforts to right past wrongs than to fly an LGBTQ flag in what we commonly call Veterans Park. LGBTQ veterans served our country with honor and then were systematically, dishonorably discharged. The United States Armed Forces have recognized and righted this discrimination in their ranks, and we in the town of Milton should acknowledge that effort too. So please, vote no on this restrictive resolution that sets Milton back to the dark ages. And let's recognize and celebrate residents of Milton. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Yes, ma'am.
Whoops, sorry.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Cannell, 12 Surrey Lane, Boston Spa, New York. I'm very concerned about the proposed resolution being voted on regarding the Pride flag decision not to fly during Pride Month. I think it's sending the wrong message. We are supposed to be an inclusive community. Pride Month, the month of June, is a month where we stand behind our brothers and sisters who are part of the LGBT community. The Pride flag shows we are an inclusive, not exclusive community. The Pride flag should be flown in our town, and I'm disappointed in this town board for this decision. I feel you're making a decision which excludes many of your constituents, perhaps to your detriment come election day. I'm ashamed of each and every one of you, absolutely ashamed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I got a question. What is the proposal?
Can I have your name and address, please?
Oh yeah, Pete Mendelson, and I'm at 318 Stone Church Road. And I don't know what you voted for, or which side the board is on this issue. Could somebody make that clear?
It's a resolution to approve a flag policy for the town.
And what is that flag policy going to be?
Yeah, you can do that.
Thank you, Barbara. And I may have something further to say, but I want to see what the proposal is.
No problem. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm not a sir.
Or ma'am, I'm sorry.
My name is Cindy Swadler. I live at 304 Amy Road. I'm a 42-year resident of the town of Milton. On May 7th, I emailed this town board supervisor and town board members. In my letter, I asked if the town raise a pride flag in front of Town Hall and in the park at the intersection of Rowland and North Line this June and every June thereafter, as it was done for the past 2 years. I received no response from a written response from an elected official. Just last night, I learned about the proposed flag policy, which has been put forward for a vote tonight. The proposed policy limits flags on town property to official government flags, as well as the U.S. military and veterans flags. This policy is restrictive, and that means the town cannot recognize Black History Month, American Heart Month, Women's History Month, Autism Awareness Month, Prostate Cancer Month, Child Abuse Prevention Month, or even National Bird Feeding Month. Why is the pride flag important to Milton? LGBTQ people live in Milton. We are your neighbors, your friends, your taxpayers, and your customers. According to the Trevor Project, nearly 50% of LGBTQ plus youth have seriously considered suicide. Communities that recognize LGBTQ youth and their families and allies can reduce the risk through public affirmation. We know that welcoming communities save lives, including children's lives. Welcoming communities do this by fostering awareness of community needs and challenges faced by the LGBTQ plus community. Connections with affirming role models, knowledge of community resources, and connections among LGBTQ plus residents and their allies. If I may remind you, when the pride flags were first raised in Milton in 2020, they were stolen twice. The third time the flag was raised, over 100 residents of Milton, children through grandmothers, proudly attended. It's especially moving when we hear from parents and allies of LGBTQ plus youth that they are grateful that we are here and we can help find them resources. Tonight, I ask this town board to join the village of Round Lake, the village of Ballston Spa, and the city of Saratoga to become a welcoming community. I ask that Milton become a welcoming community, and I ask you to defeat this proposal, to vote to raise the pride flag for the month of June, now and into the future. I don't say this for myself. I don't read this for myself. I don't speak here. I speak about the LGBT youth who need to know that this is a safe and affirming community. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes.
Hi, Michael Landis, 272 Meadowlark Drive. Hi, everyone. I also would like to urge the board to reject the motion that is put forward, although I want to take just a little bit of a different tact. If some of you are thinking that there's nothing in the proposed motion about the gay pride flag, and you're going to maybe argue in your mind, or maybe even publicly, that this isn't about that, that it's something about discipline and when we come to symbols we put up, I would argue in response to that, a preemptive argument that context is everything. And I think everyone here knows what the context of this is, given the recent past that we've experienced here in the town, the fact that this is coming up for a vote right now on the as we are about to enter June, the fact of what just happened in the village. We all know what this is about. And to my mind, and I think many of you might agree, that this seems like a very blatant strike against a very particular part of our community. And that just rubs me every way that's wrong. And I would say that for any part of our community, even if I disagree with you on every issue, even if you are someone whose views I think are loathsome, I would still not want this board, or frankly any government body, to single you out and say, we're not going to include you. And so as a different tact, I'm going to go to this inclusive argument, but I'm doing it a little differently because I know that some of you might be thinking that there's nothing in there specifically about Gay Pride Month or the LGBTQ community, but we all know that's what this is about. And I do not want this board to set the precedent, or any board for that matter, to single out a part of our community who live with us, regardless of whether we understand or agree or feel, whatever. They're part of us, and we should not single that group out and say, no, you do not belong, you are not welcome. And I believe that you guys are going to do the right thing. I think we're all good people, and we all love being neighbors with each other. So I urge you to do the right thing and say no to this thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Martina Bantham, I live at 32 Birch Tree Lane in Ballston Spa. I'm not necessarily opposed to a flag policy, but I would like to see the flag policy amended to include the flying of flags that represent nationally recognized awareness campaigns, such as Pride Month, which we're all talking about, really what this is all about. But citizens may also want to commemorate other months, such as breast cancer awareness or Black history. The town already has 2 pride flags, and I would ask the supervisor and board to begin flying them as a regular practice each June. Unfortunately, some consider this to be a divisive issue, but it is about being an inclusive and welcoming community. It's well known that on the national level, there are culture wars being fought. Much of the Republican Party has an anti-gay and anti-trans agenda. Much of the Democratic Party has a woke culture agenda. But partisan culture wars have no place in our small community. Displaying a pride flag in June is not taking anything away from anyone else. It's not really asking too much either. Recognizing Pride Month does not mean any other group is diminished. Pride Month is intended to give some recognition and voice to a group that is marginalized. It's a way of saying we see you, we support you, and you are welcome here. This is an especially important message to send to our youth, and it shows that we are a vibrant, diverse, and inclusive community.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, I guess I understand what the policy is, and I commend you all for it. When I was just turned 19, I just finished high school. And I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. I spent 3 years and 3 months in the United States Marine Corps. I was honorably released from my service. And I think the policy that I just read here is the right policy. You're not excluding anybody. You're simply laying normal parameters so that you don't have to be faced with all kinds of different groups that want to fly whatever insignias they want. Communism, Nazism, gay pride. You have your right to free speech, and what you do in your own bedroom is your business. But this is public property, and the parameters that you've set in this that I just read make sense. Put an end to this issue so that other groups don't come up with their own particular fetishes or whatever. And I thank you for your decision and expect that today you will approve what I just read.
Thank you, sir.
God bless America, and God bless Donald Trump.
Tom?
I haven't seen Pete Mendelson, and I can't tell you how long, Pete. Tom Bogosian, 1120 Middle Line Road. I came without a speech or anything prepared. I did read the flag policy, and I heard the prior speakers, and I just need to set the record straight because I'm a regular attendee. The prior administration and supervisor raised that pride flag as a payment to the Democratic Party for supporting him, and he paid you for that. He raised the flag, and I am someone who is a firm believer in having a policy. It is in no way exclusionary. You want to fly flags, you want to fly flags on your own property, you've got every right to fly whatever flag you want to fly. And I commend the board for establishing a policy that is not exclusionary, but in fact sets a very simple parameter. We fly the United States flag, we fly the state flag, we fly veterans flag. And you're absolutely right, Pete, because once you open up that door, then you may want the pride flag, but you may hate the fascism flag, you may hate the communism flag, and it is a wrong way to go about it. I know there'll be people that disagree with me, but thank you. I appreciate you bringing forth a policy so we don't have this discord. You're able to do, say, and be whatever you want to be, and I respect you for that, but this is town property, and it's for all people. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I do.
So do I.
Yes, you
Go
do.
ahead, Ben. Yeah, I can't see it. Red shirt, yes, come on. Come on.
Hi, Michelle Judah, 34 Van Tassel Lane. Before I say what I planned on saying, I just have to say fetishes, fascism, communism, and gay pride. Don't see them in the same place. The woman who was talking about nationally recognized, commemorations, it seems to be very different to me from those other things. And I do appreciate your service to our country. extremely. Thank you for that. But those are very different. And on the heels of the shooting in Buffalo, fueled by hate, it is really difficult to believe that we're standing here having this conversation. But here's what I wanted to say in regards to this. The second line in this policy, I'm not even sure what you're trying to say. Unlike the public's First Amendment right to freedom of speech, the government is not required to display any and/or all requests by the public. As far as I know, my right to free speech does not require me to do anything. So I don't understand that sentence. I think what you're trying to say is that there's not a free speech right to ask your government to do something, that the public cannot require it, and that it's true. There's Supreme Court law, that says there's a difference between free speech and government speech. So I get that. But if you take a look at that Supreme Court case that decided that, which was the Pleasant Grove case, I'd just like to read you a little bit of that unanimous opinion that came from our Supreme Court. It says, if the government were engaging in its own expressive conduct, then the free speech clause has no application. The free speech clause restricts government regulation of private speech. It does not regulate government speech. A government entity has the right to speak for itself. And most importantly, indeed, it is not easy to imagine how government could function if it lacked this freedom. Quote, if every citizen were to have a right to insist that no one paid by public funds express a view with which he disagreed, debate over issues of great concern to the public would be limited to those in the private sector, and the process of government as we know it is radically transformed. You have a position of leadership within our community, and we need to be able to look to you for that leadership. And I just want to make very clear that if you accept this policy, if you adopt this policy, you're also exercising your government speech, and you are sending a message to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Bruce?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Hey, Pete, how are you? Good. Haven't seen you forever. I'm going to take a little different approach here. I do support your policy. I do believe the U.S. flag represents us all. I do believe the U.S. flag is inclusive, and I do believe everyone should pledge allegiance to that flag, because there's a lot of people that have died for that flag. There's a lot of people that have sacrificed that, so we can get up here and speak our minds tonight. It doesn't happen everywhere. But I just want to say, I hear a lot of nationally recognized, communism, not nationally recognized, fascism. Yeah, I get it. I've served on the Salvation Army Board in Saratoga Springs for over 30 years. There's a nationally recognized Salvation Army Week. So will I be able to come in here and ask this board to fly the Salvation Army flag for a week? I'm thinking a lot of our LGBTQ friends will oppose that because they publicly attacked the Salvation Army. So instead of fracturing the community, instead of creating this tribalism of this group, the LGBTQ or whatever initial it is, the BLM, this one, that one, the women's rights, why not? Why can't we unify under one banner? That's what the flag is all about. Because if we don't have one unifying force, and what time do we need to unify more than now? This country is so divided, and this issue is a divisive issue. Man, you talk to numbers. I like numbers. I deal with numbers all day long. You said 100 people showed up. Wow, that's great. There's 20,000 people in the town of Milton. That's less than half of 1%. That means 99.5% of the residents of this town chose not to show up. Isn't that correct? So it's not everybody. If you want to fly the flag, fly the flag. If I want to fly the Salvation Army flag, I'll fly the Salvation Army flag. But I don't think you're going to, because you're going to say the religious component doesn't allow us to fly it. But it's a nationally recognized week. We need one flag, we need one banner to follow. Let's follow it, let's get together, let's unify, let's be Americans, instead of every fractured group out there. Let's work together. Thank you very much. I heard you.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Joyce Elliott. I live in the town of Milton at 304 Amy Road. I would just suggest that there's a vast difference between displaying a flag that signals welcome and inclusion and displaying symbols that signify destruction and violence, such as Nazi paraphernalia. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Public comment is now closed. First item on the agenda, resolution number 41. Resolution number 41 to appoint a part-time clerk in the building department. Whereas the town board hereby appoints and hires Susan Wass of 2 Milton Heights Boulevard, Ballston Spa, New York, 12020, for the position of a part-time clerk in the town of Milton Building Department effective May 9th of 2022 at an hourly rate of $20 per hour, part-time for 20 hours per week, with a specific hourly schedule to be determined by the building department head, and with benefits limited only to those that are provided by the town's personnel policy, if any, and with said to be conditioned on a 6-month probationary period wherein her performance is and remains acceptable to the town board pursuant to the town policy. Motion for resolution number 41.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Jackson.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. Next, resolution number 42 of 2022, resolution to approve a flag policy. Whereas the town recognized that the flying of any particular flag on town property is considered governmental speech, and whereas in order to be fair and non-discriminatory in the placement of flying a non-governmental flag, the town board feels it's best to have in place a strict policy to fly only certain flags. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby approves the town flag policy, a full copy of which is attached hereto, and which said policy is hereby officially adopted and shall take effect immediately. Motion for resolution number 42.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have something to say. I know, Bruce, you kind of stole my thunder. I look at what's happening in this country right now. Since when do we have to rely on a foreign country to feed our babies? I mean, you know, since when do we send billions of dollars overseas when we're paying horrendous gas prices? I think there's a lot of work for everyone here to do, okay? If we all started working, and I don't discriminate against anyone. I believe everyone can live the life they choose. I have no issues with that. But I really think we all have to start working together and start standing under the same flag, and that's the one that's flying out in front of our building right now.
I'm trying to figure out how I want to understand politics. I feel that I've sat here for the last 2 years since this became an issue, almost 3 years now. It really divided this town. And it didn't just divide this town on people that were against the gay community. It didn't divide this town on people who were against anybody else. It divided
everybody in this town. And I heard a lot of comment, especially with the Veterans Park, from people who thought that was very disrespectful to hang it in the Veterans Park. And that was not because they were against that particular organization. It was because they thought that the Veterans Park was to recognize veterans. When I go by the Veterans Park, and I think about the people who sat there, I do not just think about the people in the LGBTQ community. I think about all veterans. I think when I look at me personally, I support every one of the 20,000 people in this town. I may not agree with them all, but I support them. And I feel that I don't need a flag shown on anything. It's how I live my life. And it's how I treat people. I think what really struck me with this whole issue and why it's divided us again is, you know, for the last 2 years I heard about the gay pride flag, but I never heard one resident of this town stand up for Black History Month. We listed off probably 10 organizations that we should have flags for. And I did not hear in the last, 6 years, or 4 years I've been on board, I have not ever heard anyone in this town stand up, other than Gay Pride Month, and say we should fly a flag for that group. When I look at what my job is in this town, I feel my job in this town is to strike a balance. And I think this particular policy strikes a balance. We're not excluding anybody in this town. What we are saying is we welcome all people in this town. And I know it's probably not the popular opinion, but that's my opinion.
Councilman Isakson.
No.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. Next, motion to approve hiring an engineer at a maximum of $20,000 for the Town of Milton Trail Master Plan to enhance an existing trail and new connections to the trail with money set aside in the Town Open Space Reserve.
Yes. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
That's his baby.
Any discussion? Okay. Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. Next, a motion to set a special meeting for June 8th of 2022 at 12 p.m. noon for the presentation of the salary schedule studies.
I'll make that motion.
No second.
Any discussion? Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. Next, a request by Mark DeLong to roll over 57.35 hours of vacation. Letter dated May 24th of 2022. Dear Town Board, I, Mark DeLong, am requesting to roll over 57.35 hours of vacation. My anniversary date is May 26th. Thank you for your time and consideration with my request. Sincerely, Mark DeLong. Motion for Mark DeLong's carryover of his vacation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. Next, a motion to accept the resignation of Anthony Anderson from the Buildings and Grounds. I, Anthony Anderson of 110 Brookline Road, C10, Ballston Spa, New York 12020, hereby resign as my position as working supervisor in the Buildings and Grounds Department of the Town of Milton, effective May 23rd of 2022. Motion to accept Anthony Anderson's resignation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Jackson,
Yes.
Councilman Frosch,
Yes.
Councilwoman Carr,
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell,
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Next, the monthly reports and liaison reports and county committee reports. First, animal control. Total number of calls, 123. This is for April 22. Bite cases, 3. Dangerous dog, 0. Animal C, 6. Tickets issued on licensed dog, 4. Dogs running at large, 4. Nuisance, 0. Total of 8. Respectfully submitted, Dave Drzezinski, Animal Control. Building Department, John?
Okay, the building department. During the month of April, the building department processed 27 building permits and collected $2,116 in building permit fees. We completed 30 construction inspections, 8 fire inspections, and responded to 12 code enforcement complaints. A total of 15 certificate of occupancies, 5 certificate of compliance being issued. Respectfully submitted Bill Lewis. You want me to go?
Yes, you have next, will be the,
Buildings and grounds, I don't have
we don't have one.
We don't have a
Highway
report.
Department.
the highway department has completed their spring cleanup of brush and yard debris, began roadway construction on Ackland Boulevard and Good Road for town residents that reside on those roads. We thank them for their patience as we complete our projects. Compost will be available in the highway yard until approximately June 1st. Yard debris can no longer be left loose on the side of the road. There are no regular or scheduled pickups after May 15th. So we urge residents to use our transfer station. The transfer station is open Monday through Thursday, 6 a.m. until 4:30 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. The transfer station is closed on all holiday weekends. Respectfully submitted to highway.
Thanks, John. Next, historian report. Mike?
Hello, everybody. I am currently the new town historian. I just started on May 2nd. I was appointed at that point. This is my first time going through, so I hope you bear with me in terms of this. I hope it's not too boring. From what I've heard, we had good discussions going on earlier. It's not going to be that exciting for you guys at this point. So anyway, I have a couple things I wanted to mention in terms of what other things I've been doing. On April 28th, I attended a meeting with the Saratoga County Committee on the Revolutionary War, and I'm also a member of that committee as well, as town historian. And we discussed possibly different things we can promote in the town and the county to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. And there's money available for the town to tap into, it seems to be, for projects that promote that. And I have several things in mind over the next few years I'd like to put in place here in town. One of them is actually to mark out the invasion route of 1780 with actual placards, because part of history of any area is making people aware of what happened. And that's one of the things we can do here. That was a pretty important invasion that occurred in this area. A lot of people don't even know about it or where it took place. So that's one of my proposals. There's also a small park down the road here at the corner of Middle Line and Geyser. That's actually where the invasion stopped. At that, right there by the Caterhams. I'd like to put a historical kiosk there, which again, the money can probably come from the state and the federal government to help support that, as long as the town will also support those activities. I'm also proposing to make sure that every Revolutionary War soldier's grave at town of Milton has some designation in terms of the cemeteries where they're located, and that can be also financed through something called the Pomeroy Foundation. So a lot of the things I'm proposing to celebrate the 250th anniversary actually could be paid for without money from the town. Okay, so I'll be working toward those kinds of goals. Also, as a historian, when I took the job, I didn't realize how many different little pieces there are, and how I got to keep track of all these different things, like getting phone calls about finding histories of different people's houses, going through all the files and finding out where information's located, because there's so much downstairs that I have no idea where it's located. I'm trying to sort it all out. really relevant historical information that people in the community can have access to if they knew where it was, and I knew where it was, so I can direct them to that. They're working on that as well. I've also looked at I'm looking at the cemeteries in the town. Some are in pretty bad shape. I just did my first assessment on the Oakwood Cemetery, and it's got a lot of problems. I don't know if anybody even knows where it is, but it's basically I think it's Oakwood Drive or Oakwood Circle. Is it Oakwood Drive? Oakwood Court, the new housing development, and it's back in the woods. It's one of the oldest cemeteries in town. Cemeteries are basically our connection to our past. A lot of really important people are there who established the town, and we don't really have a good representation of who they were or what they stood for as far as creating this community. And the cemetery should reflect how important they were. So I think we need to fix it a little bit. There is money in the budget, which the town dedicated for that already. It's just a matter of putting the pieces in motion to actually get it done. I actually plan on starting myself by replacing the sign, fixing the sign that's there, it's actually fallen down. But we have other things we have to do too. I gave the town actually recommendations of things I thought should be fixed. And from the conversation I had, they seemed pretty supportive of it. We just had to put this up pieces in motion to get it done. That's my first goal as far as cemeteries. I'm going to assess every cemetery in town, make sure everything is, again, well marked, looking pretty good. Because again, if we don't take care of the people who came before us, I mean, how does it reflect on the people who live in the community now? So that's how I see it as a historian. Anything else I wanted to mention? I think that's about it. So if there's any questions, I'll hopefully could address them. You got any questions? Did it go okay, guys? Yeah. All right. That's all we need to know. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Great job.
Thanks.
Next, town clerk register.
All right, for the month of April, we did 8 marriages, 4 certified marriage certificates, 20 certified death certificates, 21 FOIL and search of records requests, 167 dog license, 28 online dog licensing, 24 fishing licenses, and 9 Pavilion Community Center rentals. And the town share was $4,256.58.
Thank you, Brenda. Town Justice Park.
Milton Town Clerk for the month of April 2022. Fine, money collected and remitted to the State Controller's Office. Fines, $3,350. Surcharges, $2,284. Civil fees, $1,450, for a total of $7,084.
Thank you, Barb. Nothing from our tax collector, youth bureau, no. Planning and zoning board, Frank.
For the zoning board meeting on April the 28th, there was a area variance for a cell tower discussion at 907 Good Road. No action was taken and no public hearing was set until such time that the applicant appears before the zoning board. 839 Murray Road, public hearing, the variance was approved. The Milton Solar area variance public hearing continued, and it will remain open at this time. And lastly, there was a mail kiosk public hearing for Fair Oaks. The public hearing was held, but no action was taken. The board has pushed back on the developer asking for a permanent solution. And then the planning board meeting on May 11th, 313 Rollins Street, a public hearing for a site plan, which was approved. 201 North Line Road, a special use permit for a cigar lounge. That's the former Stewart's location on Route 50. The special use permit was approved for that. 426 Geyser Road, special use permit and site plan review for a potential dog wash, laundry service, and additional residential dwellings at an existing structure. Discussions on that are going to continue. 424 Geyser Road, site plan review revised. It's a dental office. They came before the board previously asking for an expansion. Public hearing has already held, so one is going to be waived. They're looking to actually take back some of the space. They're not going to need all that was originally accounted for. So they'll have to go to the zoning board for a setback change. And then lastly, at 839 Murray Road, special use and site plan application. Public hearing has been set for that for June the 8th at 7:05 p.m.
Thank you, Ryan. Supervisors report on county committee. The county is, as effective June 1st, has suspended the gas sales tax, which will save approximately 16 cents a gallon in our county till the end of the year, which should save taxpayers around $4 million. Next, I have correspondence. I have 4 letters that were submitted to the board from Michael and Martha Iacalucci, Susan Westbrook from Carlton Way, and Cecilia Pickard from 79 Bass Street. Letters that were received and filed with the board. Next on the agenda will be public comment for any other town business. Okay, I have 3, I apologize, I have 3 from the prior that we didn't see that their hands were up at the meeting, so we'll address them first through
People had raised their hand and the Zoom wasn't recognized, so I'm just.
I just acknowledged
Oh,
that.
okay.
It was
Oh, good.
after, yes. All right,
Thank you.
all right. Are you there?
Hi, this is Jeremy Baird. Thank you, 3 Maple Avenue, Boston Spa. Yes, I wanted to make a comment about the resolution that was already approved, but I do want to have my comments on the record. Just give me one moment to pull up my notes. And I appreciate your patience. One more moment. Everything pulled up, and just one more moment. Okay, I'm going to speak off the top of my head. I do appreciate your patience. Again, Jeremy Baird, 3 Maple Avenue, Boston Spa. I was commenting in opposition of the flag policy that was adopted tonight. I do commend the vote from Councilmember Isaacson. If the intent of the policy was to not show favoritism to groups or to be non-discriminatory, then I would have hoped that we would have limited it to just the US flag and the state flag, and not flags of military, veterans, POWs, etc. All of those groups represented certainly contribute to the community and the town. The town as a place to be inclusive, as was mentioned before, the pride flag shows inclusivism, and flags are just one way that we are able to celebrate what makes us unique, our cultures, our heritage, and share that with one another in order to educate them and come together. Thank you.
Thank you. Brendan, anyone else have their hand up?
Yep. All right, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Marion Pitsis, 516 Elk Circle, Ballston Spa, New York. And I had a comment about the flag policy. And I'm very sorry to see that you voted yes on the flag policy. Thank you, Mr. Isaacson, for voting no. I think it's disingenuous to cite flag requests in that policy. I'd like to know, how many requests have you had in the last 12 months for flags to fly on town property? That's cited in the policy as not wanting to discriminate. Without knowing how many flag requests there were, it's clear that this is very discriminatory. Thank you for letting me voice my comments and concerns.
Thank you. One more?
Yep. All right, are you there, Maria? Nope, sorry, wrong one. There we go. Polly?
Yes.
There you go, all right.
Polly Wendell's 223 Meadowlark Drive, Boston Spa. I would also like to comment about the flag decision. if you would notice, federal agencies fly the pride flag. The VA flies the pride flag, which I would hope our veteran friends would make notice of. State buildings fly the pride flag. So it would make more sense if the town of Milton was in keeping with government entities if they want to in fact hide behind the fact that they are honoring only government entities when they decide which flags to fly. The military is not the only flag that is flown in addition to the American flag and the New York State flag. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Oh, that's it. That's the only thing.
Okay.
Oh, no, never mind.
You good? All right. So we're gonna go to public comment number 2, so any other town business, public comment. Anyone? Marion Morgan?
Do I have to go up there?
We can hear you if you wanna stay there,
Okay.
that's fine.
I just wanted to say, what a good time the kids had at the fishing derby. I was so proud of my 5 and unders that I registered. They had a great showing. They had a great time. And I hope we continue it.
Thanks for the positive feedback. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Michelle Judah, 34 Van Tassel Lane. For the public comment regarding things that are not on the agenda, there's quite a lot of them. What is going on with the Heritage Springs Sewers Works? I went back and on January 26th, there was a motion that was made. It seemed to have some expediency to it that the board was directing the attorney to draft a resolution with regards to the rates. It was asked that the council members get feedback to the attorney, I think within 3 weeks, that I'm doing that from memory. It was a short period of time so that he could do that. It was supposed to be talked about in February, then it was going to be talked about in March. It's not shown up on an agenda since January 26th. And as a resident, I am very curious as to what's going on with that because it was the subject of extremely hostile public comment with the previous administration. I will admit I don't understand the whole issue, so I don't have a horse in the game here. I'm not affected by this, but as a resident, I'd like to understand what's going on because we certainly heard from other residents that there was, we were breaking the law by not doing this. And so it would seem to me if it's not showing up here that something's happening at this point because the Bogosians seem to be satisfied at this point. So what is going on that we're not seeing anything in public? Well, we're at least not hearing about your comments, and I have reached out to try to talk to you about it. The financial report is not on the agenda tonight. Again, I'm going to broken record, this is not against the controller, but there was a modified opinion on the audit, which you actually accepted twice, December and February. The fact you accepted it twice makes me wonder how closely you're looking at it. A modified opinion is not great. It means there's some things that need to be changed, and we're not hearing anything about it. It's not even on the agenda tonight. My understanding, we're trying to catch up, we're trying to fix a bunch of things, so we have not been able to submit for year ending. We had a request an extension on that. I kind of thought the extension was running out. Why are we not hearing about how you're reviewing, what we're putting in place to correct that? Something, a high level, anything. The fact it doesn't show up is very concerning to me. I've also asked previously, we did pay for a sound study as the taxpayers. We had a presentation where we heard about what the challenges were of the sound study. It's never come up again. I'd like to know. My money paid for it. I'd like to know what it said. And then finally, the last thing I'm very concerned about from the last meeting, and sorry that I wasn't able to be here, but we hired an independent contractor and are titling them a director. I'm really concerned about that, and it makes me question, I don't know if you guys have an HR consultant, somebody you can be talking to in regards to that, but that type of title could raise some eyebrows with the Department of Labor as to whether that person should actually be an employee It wasn't really clear how the position was defined. You know, you don't have any control over an independent contractor. You cannot direct their work. For them to be called a director, you know, for a newly created position, or it's not a position because they're not an employee, whatever it is, it wasn't very clear. It mentioned that there was a contract, the resolution mentioned a contract being attached that hasn't been made publicly available. We don't know the details of what that person's being paid, what the position entails. So finally, that also brings up ongoing thing is the personnel policies. They got mentioned a little bit at the last meeting. Let's get some updates on that. And again, I'm very concerned as to, I really think the town needs an HR consultant to make sure that you're not stepping into things that can cause you problems that you don't see coming your way. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Huh?
I've been called a lot of things, but not pacified. That's not one that's gonna fit. If you care to educate yourself about Heritage Spring, you call me anytime, I'd be happy to educate you. It is my understanding, and in our communication with the current supervisor, I think I can sum it up very succinctly. He is working diligently at rectifying a long-standing problem, which is Heritage Spring Sewer Works here in the town. And I will quote him, "I would rather get it done right than fast." And I appreciate that. Believe me, I wish it was done 20 years ago. I wish it was done 4 months ago. But I am in agreement that we get it right rather than we get it quick. And I appreciate the efforts. Don't think for a minute that I remain silent. There are times to speak and there are times to be quiet. And the previous administration was a do-nothing, useless waste of our time. That's why you heard me up here every time speaking, cajoling, and asked them to do something, and they did nothing. And that's why they're not sitting here now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Bruce?
Just want to thank the board for passing that flag motion. It takes courage to act, and I appreciate the courage of the board to do that. I heard a couple speakers up here kind of poo-poo the idea of communism, fascism, all that kind of isms. However, if we fly the pride flag, do we fly the BLM flag? And if we fly the BLM flag, do we look into the ideology that they espouse? If you read their literature, BLM espouses a Marxist ideology. Marx was the founder of communism. So it's not such a stretch. You just need to read the details. So that's why it's important to get the unified behind one man. That's what we need to do. And I appreciate you guys taking that action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Yes, sir.
Pete Mendelson again, and I agree with that gentleman 100%. He's right on target. That's the flag right there, and it's inclusive. Thank you, and thank you for passing that resolution.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? Next executive session, we will not be going into executive session, so other than that, a motion to adjourn. Oh, hold on a second.
I have a hand up again.
All right, go ahead. That's fine.
Go ahead, Marion.
Hi, Marion Pitsis, 516 Elk Circle, Ballston Spa. There's an article in the Times-Union today about Greenlight, which provides internet service, and they're running a program. They're going to start it up in Clifton Park, and I would like to advocate that the town of Milton look into that. Right now, we are all hostages to Spectrum, To me, that's a monopoly and the service is not the best. My internet at my house keeps cutting in and out constantly. The second issue I have is there's a pedestrian crossing at Geyser Road and Deer Run Drive. And I'm not sure who to talk to about getting it so that it has a light attached, like the ones that are by the bike path farther down Geyser Road as you're going towards Route 50. Those crossings have the same bright greenish yellow sign, but they have some kind of light. I don't know if it's operated by someone who's crossing the road, if they have to push a button, or if it's motion activated, so that when they approach a certain part by the sign, that flashing light comes on. But I would highly advocate that we add that to this pedestrian crossing. There's a couple times people have almost been hit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Brenda?
No, that's it.
No further business, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Zaxton.
Yes.
Councilman Crowell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell. Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, I just want to make everybody aware, our meetings are on the fourth Wednesday. Next month there is 5, but due to our Zoom constrictions, it'll be June 22nd, our meeting next month, June 22nd.
Do you want to explain the June 8th meeting a little bit? Just, we have a special meeting set for June 8th, but we will be going directly into executive session. Everyone's welcome, but just so you know, maybe sitting here for a while.